So hi, my name's Andy Goldman. I'm known as the copywriting physio, but I'm a LinkedIn trainer for health and medical professionals. So in the upcoming online prosperity show, I'm going to talk about my background and how I brought that into what I do now and how it can help you with your LinkedIn profile and your LinkedIn presence going forward.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga. I've got a guest who's a triple threat. I had to check: trainer, physiotherapist, and a copywriter. And that's right, Andy Goldman. Andy, how are you doing, my man?
I'm good, thank you. Good, thank you, Prosper. Thanks for inviting me on.
Absolutely. Well, the diverse that is, a background that is so diverse. I think it's like if LinkedIn and healthcare had a love child and then threw in a little bit of some world-class writing skills for good measure there, that would be you, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I've never been called a triple threat before, but I am going to use that.
Well, there's always a first time. There's always a first time. But for those that are watching right now, you might be wondering what is actually going on here and why are these guys bromancing here? Well, let me tell you something. I've met Andy, over LinkedIn, watched his stuff, and also there's a few fun facts that I discovered while I was researching him for this particular episode. So Andy is a true spirit. After actually running the Edinburgh Marathon, because of course that's what someone with Andy's energy would do, he actually proposed to his wife right at the finish line. I don't know if you had planned this or anything else, but I think the tabloids had another idea. You actually made the front page of your local newspaper, but the headline that was right next to your photo read "Boozy Couple in Sea Rescue Drama," which made it look like it was you guys right at the end of the day. And no, you were not the boozy couple, and it was just some headline irony at its finest. Maybe that's why you decided to become a copywriter, so that you can right that wrong.
I think so. Yes, it was a big headline. We were a boozy couple, but we didn't get lost in the sea. It was fine. Um, no. Yeah, there was a strange one. That was the second time I proposed. I was running for a charity, Macmillan Cancer Support. So I proposed to my wife, well, now wife, at the end of the race in the charity's tent. But it turns out my future mother-in-law had got involved and rung the local press, and I had to go back to the finish line in front of a few thousand people and do it all again.
Oh.
Yes, we made front page of the paper with a good headline. I'm going to call it a good headline. It just wasn't mine.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations, my man. I mean, at least you got famous already, and now you're helping other people do the same. Yeah, because you're helping medical and health professionals leverage LinkedIn to its fullest potential. So many people don't quite know how to use this platform. So you're helping them refine their profile and ensuring their message lands with impact. Now, how did you even get into all of this?
So far from it as a physiotherapist. I spent, what was it now, over 10 years in the National Health Service in England. Mostly seeing people in their own homes. So I'm a community physio by background. So it'd be helping keep people out of hospital, helping people get home from hospital, making sure they've got the care they need at home, or providing rehabilitation to get people back to a level of independence or a good quality of life that they want to get back to after injury or illness. That was my role for over 10 years. But I also had a keen interest in not just in writing, social media. Never knew what I wanted to do with any of that. It was always a bit of fun. So I'd be writing some articles about maybe men's mental health or anything really, just because I enjoyed writing. But it never occurred to me at any point at this time that I could make money from it or that I could do this as a career. But then I got started on a Twitter account for one of my old NHS trusts where I'd write about the therapy team. It would be promoting how we run the service and promote celebrating patient stories and that kind of thing. So it's all original content, people smiling, enjoying their rehab, engaging in what we're doing, and showing it off to everybody. And it was great. And I just found that was a bit of an in for me to what can I do differently? how do we improve communications in healthcare so that people can actually enjoy taking part in getting better. So I came
Mm,
out of the NHS nearly 2 years ago now, and I started writing. But to begin with, I wanted to practice. I couldn't just go straight into niching, and because I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I'm not a marketer. I'm a healthcare professional by background. So I spent a lot of time writing on websites, social media posts, blog writing, but it was about anything. I wrote for a Caribbean restaurant, beer reviews, an accountant, horse riding, anything, just so I could learn how to be a copywriter. And then I would say 6 months later, that's when I started looking at healthcare, thinking, right, I know the processes now. I understand the research process and how to produce something that's engaging, to create an action for an audience to do something with that information, whether it's buying, subscribing, whatever that might be. And to enhance my credibility, my background is in healthcare, so that's where I niche down.
mm,
So, but then my triple threat after that, as you mentioned, is now that I found that I wouldn't have known this from the beginning, but now LinkedIn I love it. It's one of my favorite things, and I enjoy writing on it. I enjoy engaging with people on there, and I think there's a gap for health and medical professionals to really push themselves on LinkedIn and show off their, whatever it is, their brand, their business, and I want to help them with that. I'm still a copywriter by background and a physiotherapist in the background, but my main offer now is around LinkedIn training and supporting people to make the most out of it.
mm. And thank you so much for taking us on that journey. And I always like to ask, Andrew, what was your aha moment when you actually realized LinkedIn could be a game changer? Because so many people use LinkedIn as just a resume and not as a
Mm.
platform to actually craft a personal brand, like what it is that you're doing now.
Well, I think that's it. As for an aha moment, it didn't just happen in one moment. I would say, because I historically, LinkedIn wasn't a thing for me. Working in the NHS, I was very kind of blinkered, and everything I would do to progress my career would be through a website called NHS Jobs, and that's where I'd look for promotions or moving up through my career. LinkedIn wouldn't have helped me, I didn't think, because I was very, I don't know, closed mind. So I joined LinkedIn just over 2 years ago now. Yeah, just over 2 years, and it took me a long time to even show myself on it, to write my first post. And when I decided to do it, nothing was going to happen if I didn't write. And I think that was the key. So I started writing. Again, still didn't know what I was doing. So I have taken time to post consistently, look at my analytics, understand what works, how, engaging with people and building relationships is something I know how to do, but just not through a social media platform necessarily. So I've taken the time over the last 18 months now to get my head around that. And I think, yeah, LinkedIn's absolutely brilliant. And if I can help health and medical professionals get there quicker than I can, my aha moment, I suppose, came over the summer, like just in August. It wasn't that long ago that I thought, if I've got one thing that I can concentrate on, LinkedIn, rather than trying to spread myself too thin with doing all my websites, my blogs, everything else. If I can't explain what I do in a short space of time, how does anyone else expect to see it? So I make my link. So I've chosen LinkedIn. And all of a sudden, I changed my headline and I changed my about section, and it made it very clear who I was, what I did, and who it was for. And as soon as I did that, people were getting in touch with me. My connections went through the roof. My profile views, my search appearances, people getting in touch to come on to things like this, podcasts, audio lives. And that was my aha moment, is that I've made my offer very clear on LinkedIn, what I do. So LinkedIn trainer for medical and health professionals. I say that I'm a physio and copywriter by background, and that I'm going to help you make an impact or build your influence on LinkedIn. And I kept it simple. So I suppose that was my aha moment, was I simplified things and made it obvious what I do and who for. And from there, the last few weeks have been crazy. It feels like a business now when it perhaps didn't before, and it wasn't doing as well as I wanted it to. So the aha was keep it simple.
Absolutely. I quite like that. And you just recently celebrated your birthday. Happy birthday. Maybe that was a nice little gift that you got there, with now your work starting to sort of pay off eventually. And obviously, yeah, it's a nice thing to celebrate. Now, let's take this back a little bit, Andrew. Little boys, when they're growing up, they want to be a fireman, they want to be a soldier, policeman, or they want to be um yeah, all these other things that are normal to other little kids. Why physiotherapy?
Well, it would be a lie if I said I always wanted to be a physiotherapist, because I didn't start that career until I was just about to turn 30. So I never really knew what I wanted to do. I followed a crowd. I left school and went to university. I did a degree there it was called Interdisciplinary Human Studies. So it was a multidisciplinary course. It was around philosophy, psychology, sociology, literature. But then I ended up working in a contact center when I finished, working in customer services and selling, loans to people. So I've never really known what I've wanted to do. I mean, I could, the little boy in me says I wanted to taste crisps for a living because I like crisps. So work in a crisp factory and be the chief taster. That's what I wanted to be because I love crisps. So physiotherapy came a lot later. And it was when I met Gina, my wife, now wife. She's a dentist. My mother-in-law was a retired occupational therapist, and I just started getting interested in healthcare and how we can help people. So even when I had to go back to college first before I could go to uni because I needed a science background to get onto the physiotherapy course. And even then, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it. Physiotherapy is so diverse. There's so many different roles within there. So even then, I still didn't really know. Even through university, was trying different clinical placements, and that's the idea, to try and find your niche in physio. And I found mine in community and helping mostly elderly people be safe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, Andrew, you were quite lucky that you sort of pivoted from wanting to taste crisps and actually start, going for a real job, because your small hands would no longer be fitting in a box of in a can of Pringles. Have you ever noticed? The older
No,
you get,
yeah.
your hands
No, I
don't.
have to tip. No, I tip and then I stack them on the table. That's the only way I can do it.
You would have run out of work real soon. So,
No, I don't know. I just try them again and again until I know it's right. It's fine. No.
absolutely. And so it does look like your thread of work is just in the people business. And even though you didn't quite know what it is that you wanted to do, but you just ended up working in and around people because somebody would have gone the animal route, or the technology route, but yours was just people. And would be it health, wealth, or the relationships that you then created. And are you still physically involved in that line of work, or have you already told your boss that you're not coming to work on Monday because you're on the online prosperity show today?
Yes, I'm hiding away from my boss right now. She's downstairs. No, you're right. I have always worked with people. People have been my choice, and yes, I worked in a contact center, but it was customer services, and that moved on to working in a bank. It was working in customer relations, so dealing with customer complaints, solving problems for people. So someone comes to me with a problem, I digest that, I research it, I find out how to solve that problem, and then that customer thinks, okay, he sorted it for me. I will come back to you again. And that theme kind of runs through with physiotherapy as well. Someone comes to me with a problem. I work out how to help them fix it. I might not be able to fix it for them, but I can help them to understand how they're going to make themselves better. And then they continue those things to change the way, it's something sustainable that keeps them active. And then it's the same with copywriting as well. It's fine. It's grabbing attention. It's finding out what the problem is. What can you solve for somebody? So that theme has been running all the way through my career, whatever I've done anyway. It's just about me being flexible enough to understand different roles and how I can help in this situation, how I can help when I do that, and how I can help what I'm doing now. It's always been about helping people. You're right.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
when you talk about my boss, well, I don't have a boss anymore, which is good. I left the NHS. I'm not in full-time employment, but my physiotherapy registration is really important to me. I don't want to lose that. I spent a lot of time working on getting that qualification, and so I'm an associate physio for a former colleague of mine's business. So it's still in community physiotherapy, and it's on a self-employed basis. She was asked, have I got any capacity? Would I like to see some patients? And I'll just say, it's up to me whether I say yes or no, and I'll keep a small caseload just so I can keep my clinical skills up. So I do about 9 or 10 home visits a week, and then I work my business around that.
Absolutely. So obviously in the work that you've started doing, solving problems for health professionals, let's start there a little bit. What's the most common mistake that you see them making on LinkedIn?
Well, and I talked about an audio live event that I was invited to quite soon after updating my LinkedIn profile. And what gave something away to me was that I think there was nearly 150 people who don't know me signed up to attend this talk. And this talk was on LinkedIn for health and medical professionals. So first of all, I know there's a need. Now, when I was asked questions on that event, I understood. Afterwards, I thought where I was pitching it, they were asking me to run through a profile, almost from top to bottom. How would you do this? What would you change here? How would you improve this? Anyway, but what I found was when people contacted me after to ask questions, it wasn't about the profile. It was actually about the finding the confidence to send their first post. It was as basic as I don't know what to say. I don't know what to write. What will people think of me when I write something? How do I engage? It was a lot. It was a bit of a surprise, really. But then it got me thinking that just because someone's a healthcare professional doesn't mean that they know how to market themselves, how to put themselves on LinkedIn, how to use social media. It is as simple as what do I write and how do I write it. So there's quite the range. You do have people who are established on LinkedIn who want to and they make the finer touches, and because they're not quite getting the leads they want. So there's people in that area there, but there's also at the other end of the scale, how do I do this? What do I do? How do I market myself? What do I say? So
Mm.
there's a lot of people I can help, and even then, I thought I was niche doing this, but I've also helped a copywriter recently who works with healthcare brands. So there's another group of people there that also could benefit from what I could help them with. So it's not just the professionals; it's people who also help professionals themselves, but want to get better at that. But knowing the industry gives, if they work with me, gives them an advantage because of my background.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because you've got the domain expertise of, the healthcare, the jargon, the wherewithal of everything else. Plus, you've got the bedside manner of actually dealing with humans that are scrolling in, on social media and stuff like that. Now, I know it wasn't your fault, but during the pandemic, we saw a lot of NHS nurses, and I think there was one, physiotherapist that was on there that was dancing on TikTok, and I'm not quite sure if that would have been you at that point, but yeah, just clearing your name, in front of our audience here. How do you then ensure healthcare professionals convey their expertise and also their personality in a platform that can sometimes come across as very corporate, because they don't want, like you said, lose their certification or being in touch with their actual profession?
No, I get it, and that's a big concern. I think when people are worried about what they want to what to write, because like you say, it's maintaining that professionalism. So just to clear, during COVID, yeah, I worked on the front line. My service essentially didn't change. Because the team I worked in was alongside district nurses. We worked in palliative care, so we were still treating people at home because people weren't going to hospital, they weren't being sent there. So we were caring for people at home. We had people redeployed to us from other services. So I essentially managed a team of other physios that came to me, so that we could provide care for people who may normally be in hospital, but we're trying to provide that at home to keep them out because it was a dangerous place to be. So that's how I spent my lockdowns. My work carried on as it normally did. And no, I don't. I'm not on TikTok. I don't know anything about TikTok. I'm 44. What would I know? Um, but when it comes to professionals posting, I have talked about this on sort of previous podcasts, and sometimes this is my opinion. I think people can be too professional for professional's sake because they're worried about getting out of that, almost that corridor of stepping out into some uncertainty. But I post. I'm still a registered physio, and I post on LinkedIn. And although I'm still professional, but the thing I do that I hope makes me stand out is that I try to make people smile with my content. And I'm not saying that healthcare is funny. The conditions are funny. It's laugh out loud. But I wrote a post last week where I said that I treat LinkedIn like I treat my patients. I treat them as people. I treat them with respect. It's the way I communicate with them, and the best way I get responses from my patients when I treat them is to make them smile and enjoy the process of getting better and making the most of their lives and improving their quality of life. And it could be as simple as they can't get out of a chair, or they're being hoisted and they can, they can't stand up, they can't get to the toilet, they can't go outside. But if you don't enjoy the process, sometimes it's very hard to get those people on board and build that rapport, because I need that. They're letting me into their homes, and it's a privilege to be there. And I treat LinkedIn the same way, as in, it's a privilege when people respond to me or like one of my posts, because it means I've given, hopefully, something valuable that someone has taken time out of their day to respond to. Mm-hmm. So if I can make someone smile with my content, even if it's just, that's enough for me to say that I've given someone some value. My one little footprint, my comment, my like, and it makes someone go, okay, then I'm doing my job. And so it doesn't have to be laugh out loud, funny and unprofessional. I make something relatable. It's something that, I talk about my daughter a lot. That's one of my content pillars, being a dad. And I use that as a way to engage people as well. Or leadership. I led my daughter's under-12 netball team a couple of weeks ago. And I turned that into a leadership post, but I just brought a bit of humor to it, and I dressed up in a suit while she's practicing shooting shooting in the net outside. And I just do things slightly differently. It's just content creation. That's all it is. And I want to help people take the pressure off that and feel that they can be themselves when they post, when they do video, whatever it might be, because it doesn't have to be stressful.
Absolutely.
And that's how I get my patients to relax as well. Same thing. It's let's enjoy the process and get better.
Absolutely. No, I can only imagine, because I think because fish don't see the water they swim in. All right. So when people are within the healthcare center, they're looking at people at their worst. Nobody goes to the hospital like in their high spirits. I mean, unless it's elective, but nobody really goes to, so they usually would then just expect that their audience, their clients, the people they're dealing with are all with that somber sort of look and things of that nature. So it will be very difficult for them to then switch from that, heartfelt moment to, making people feel like they're being told a story or things of that nature. So for somebody who's in the healthcare or maybe healthcare business, if they would have wanted to really start on a LinkedIn strategy effectively, what would be maybe the first step that you'd recommend?
Okay, and yes, you're right. We see people in their most vulnerable moments, and it's how we build from there, and how we engage, and how we grow. So if I was going to give some advice, the first piece of advice I ever received when I started as a freelancer or whatever you want to call it was network, network, network. One word, just said it 3 times, and it was building a community. Even if you're not going to post to start with because you're not sure what to say, comment on other people's posts is where I would start. You will still show up in other people's news feeds by doing so. You introduce yourself to new people. And if another creator has posted something, if you write a comment on there, it's very likely that they'll reply, because that's why they're doing it in the first place. So it's the easiest way to start a conversation, is to reply on someone else's. And you will find that you'll get some content just by having a conversation with somebody. And you just start conversations, start building up some connections. You don't even have to post to get started. Just comment. Talk to people, meet people, connect with their connections, and so on. And that's what I did for at least the first 6 months on LinkedIn. And I think I had a good few hundred connections before I started posting regularly. So I would start in the comments.
You see, I also love that, you focus on improving patient outcomes through obviously better LinkedIn profiles, and that creates amicable relationships out there. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more about how a strong LinkedIn presence can actually influence healthcare positively?
Well, it would depend on the goals of the person that I'd be helping. Like you say, a lot of people, they might just put their details down like a resume or CV because they're looking for work, and that's fine, because I think CVs are quite outdated now. I don't know. I don't know who looks at them. When I was recruiting in the NHS, it was an online form that they filled in and talked about their experiences. LinkedIn is there 24/7 working for you. So it's there. So the rather than having something on an online profile that someone's only looking at now and again if you've applied for a certain job, LinkedIn's very different. If you can update your profile and optimize it as best you can from your headline, your profile photo to your headline, your banner, your about section, it's working. Someone can look at that 24/7. It's there showing off you, and you got to make it your best first and lasting impression is what I say on my about section. That's what we want it to do. We want it to do all the legwork for you, so that once you've done it, it's there in the background, and someone can look at it whenever they like to see if you're the right person for them, whether it's looking for that new job, whether it's just building your personal brand or as a thought leader, or whether you have a business, a private practice, for example, or a clinic that you want to promote and get new referrals for. It really depends what that person wants out of their LinkedIn, but that's why I think it's so important, because it can work for you all round the clock.
I quite like that because, half of the time we hardly, when you meet somebody, the first thing they ask you is, what do you do? And if you can't explain to them what it is that you do, they move on to the next thing. Oh, isn't the weather good or whatever? You know what I mean? So I can only imagine if your LinkedIn is not singing, enough for you 24/7, and there's going to be times when you're tired and you're still, obviously wanting to network, like you said. But one thing that you mentioned is you were obviously just focused and concentrating on the NHS websites or health websites for your information, for looking for job opportunities and things of that nature. What would you say to somebody who's in healthcare, who's just hesitant about promoting themselves online and saying, nah, it ain't all about that. I'm getting what I'm getting with the people that I'm around or whatever networks I'm in.
Well, I mean, I don't want to put people off at the NHS, because the NHS is great. It's a great service when it's. Got to say this carefully, haven't I? If it's staffed and funded correctly, it would be absolutely beautiful, and I probably would have stayed there at that time, because I found I got to the point where I couldn't deliver the service that I wanted to. The waiting times were too long. I was getting to patients too late, and that wasn't through a fault of my own. It's a system that's not in its best shape, shall we say. So I don't want to necessarily speak for people who just look at NHS jobs and look at staying within the NHS, because I think that would be unfair. But from my personal point of view, I don't think I realised the scope of other roles out there where I could still put these skills to good use, such as I enjoyed writing. It was almost a hobby, but I never thought I could make a career out of it. And never did I think I could make a career out of it, but still use my physiotherapy background alongside it and with it, and put it to good use. So I think my advice would be, if as I say, from my personal point of view, was explore, have a look, use LinkedIn, connect with people, see what they're doing with their registrations, because there was so much. I didn't realize there was so much more to it than just being in the NHS. I went straight into the NHS after I graduated, and I stayed there. And I thought that's almost my calling, where I needed to be. And it took me nearly 10 years to find out that there's other things out there. But like I said, I don't want to put people off being in that service, because when it can be used to its capacity, it'll be brilliant. It's such a good service. But if you're feeling like if you're in that kind of environment and you're struggling, please start looking at other things, because there may be something that you can combine, one of your favorite hobbies, something you love doing, with your registration or whatever it is that you do, whether it could be a carer or whatever it is, health and social care, medical care. There are other ways that you can be happy with your life. And I hope to help people find that by connecting on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. And help them. I mean, your services range from training to full-on profile writing for the people. How do you then tailor these offerings to actually meet the unique needs of your clients? And especially if you're working with a doctor, how do you read their handwriting of things that they give you to write on their profile?
Well, I've had clients before where they just think out loud and they just write it all down. It's in no particular order, but that's the skill for me to gather this information together, and I would section it into themes, and then it's not just about them sending me writing and I work through it and produce something in return. I talk to them. I have one-to-ones with these people. That's how I do it. I talk to them and I hear it in their own voice, and that's what I like to work with. Things in their own voice, things they write. and then together we put those into key themes and work out what's their goal with LinkedIn. What do they want to achieve out of it? If someone's going to book an hour session with me, I could spend all that hour talking about 2 or 3 sections of their profile and not get through anything else. So I'd have a conversation with somebody and say, what do you want out of this hour? You can ask me anything. What do you want to talk about? Do you want to update your profile? What is it for? Who is it aimed at? What problem are you trying to solve for an audience? Or it might be helping them write their first post and looking at content strategy. So it's a very open conversation, and we take it from there.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, you've done this for yourself, and you did mention earlier that there's a time when you updated your About Us and your headline, and you became a headline speaker at a live event, and things like that, where people would now invite you for your expertise, and people were signing up. Other healthcare people signing up to just come and hear from somebody who is doing it well. Out there, and you've been on podcasts like Leading the Field, and you've had some fantastic feedback from your clients, and now you're on the Online Prosperity Show. I mean, what has been your proudest moment in helping, maybe a client transform their LinkedIn presence? Because, I mean, obviously you've done well for yourself, but does this work on other humans?
So I think one of my proudest clients would be, I'd say, my first client that I worked with on LinkedIn, because we did the whole thing from scratch. It's a client who had 3 businesses that they were pursuing. He's a doctor, looking at technology with a triage platform. They have an education company where they teach students about certain conditions and how to implement their treatments in their practice. And the third one being their own sports injury clinic. And it was the challenge of bringing 3 businesses together and how to promote that in a snapshot, to get them your business, to show off their new technology in this triage platform, to get more students or other health professionals or doctors to come to their educational events. And I'm proud of it because we managed to do that, and I've also managed to get extra work out of it because I've built a relationship with that client. I've built a trust, and although LinkedIn is my main focus, I'm now starting to do work for their website, for example, updating landing pages, biographies of the staff that he has working for him, and there may be some more work coming from blog pieces, some articles coming up. And that's just for one of their businesses. They're also maybe looking at the education business that they've got, and I can start. And then their website, it's almost a shell at the moment. So there's potential there. So I'm proud of the fact that I'm seeing a journey from the start, but it's nowhere near the finish. But I'm building that relationship where they're allowing me to continue working with them because because it's successful and it's working for them. And this relationship has now been going on for nearly 6 months, and I can't see the end of it yet, which is lovely.
Absolutely.
So I think relationship building is probably it's one of my proudest moments because that's what makes it for me.
Absolutely, and congratulations on that. It's obviously not an easy feat to step into that realm, start working on a business that's A, already established, and B, is already a live specimen of somebody's income and things of that nature, and you being able to sort of turn it around. So if people are sort of looking for such transformation or such help from yourself, Andrew, where would be the best place they can go to?
Well, I'm going to say LinkedIn. It's the most obvious one. That's where I hang out the most. I'm going to say LinkedIn. I mean, I do have Instagram, but I don't tend to use it very much. No, it's all LinkedIn for me. I know it sounds like all eggs in one basket kind of thing, but if I want to be an expert in something, I want to choose one thing to be good at. So that's where I hang out. So if you want to connect with me, it's Andy Goldman, or the Copywriting Physio is my kind of business name that I've continued to use. Connect with me, send me a DM. That's the best way.
Absolutely. And I'll make sure I'll put in those links in the show notes, and also a link to your website, just in case they want to check you out in a different sort of sphere there. But Andrew, I mean, obviously it's not always easy to just get started. You just wake up one day, look at your phone, log into LinkedIn, and voila, you're on the online prosperity show. What sort of unexpected challenges would you have faced on your way, first of all, to build what you're doing, and how have you managed to overcome them?
Well, I say again, leaving full-time employment, leaving a secure job in the NHS and doing this, I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I was coming in to just write, but it wasn't as simple as that. And there's been lots of up and down days to say, how do I do this? What do I do? And it was building that network and learning from, finding people that you can trust and learning from them that helped me find more better days than not so good days. So it takes a lot of time to build confidence to do that. And I'm not saying the last 2 years have been smooth. They haven't. I've had a lot to learn. The thing I always had in mind was my goal was to, I would say, to improve healthcare communications has been the thing that I've used all the way through. As to how I was going to do that, I wasn't really sure. I tried. I wouldn't have known when I started that LinkedIn would have been the thing that I would do. So I've taken the time to understand what I'm good at, what I enjoy doing, because the whole point of doing something for myself, there's no point doing something if I'm not going to enjoy it or not going to enjoy who I'm working with. So I've taken the time to understand how I'm going to do it and on what platform. And that's how I've got here. I found something that I love doing with people that I love working with, that I understand as well, I hope. And that's what I'd encourage, taking the time to understand what you want to do. And there will be days where you go, imposter syndrome and all that. Still get it now. And as for posting on LinkedIn, no, I don't post every day. If I'm not feeling it, if I've got a day where I've got some concerns, or it will come across in my writing, so I don't post that day. I've learned to take the pressure off myself. So I haven't posted since Sunday. I'm going to post after this because I've got lots of content to talk about now. I've not posted there, but there wasn't a pressure on me to do that because I don't need to. I still want to stay, visible, which I will be. It's fine. I'm still in the. If I don't feel like posting, I'll go into the comments and start helping other people and helping spread their reach. It's about taking the pressure off, because I see a lot of people stressing about LinkedIn, and I want to take some of that away by just saying, no, it's okay.
And I find that the reason why that is what we've established earlier on. People approach it as a resume site. It's literally where their work lives and their reputation and career, and that translates to their means of survival or their actual earnings potential, or means of production. And if you take that away from them, then obviously they feel like, they can't show up in the world. But it's not necessarily like that. And from what I'm understanding from you is you literally have to do what you can with what you have, but at least show up in such a way that you are helping people to get to know you, like you, and trust you. And it's things like that a lot of people sort of overlook when it comes to things like this. Now, when we started, Andrew, you introduced us to young Andrew who didn't quite have a clue what he wanted to do, and now you've become this guy, and even I had to reach out to your team to make sure that we get you on the podcast today, and things of that nature. What if you could go back in time and just give young Andrew a bit of advice, when he was scratching his head thinking, I want to be the guy that tests crisps and that's all I want to do. What sort of advice would you give to that young bloke?
Wow, that is a huge question, that. But for someone who's not really known what they wanted to do, I think, like we've talked about, every role that I've had has been about helping people. And I don't, you know what? I think I tell myself the same thing. Whatever you do, it's help other people. And that advice wouldn't change, because I wouldn't change what I've done, because everything I'm doing now has been based on the experiences I've had so far. So no, I wouldn't, because if I give myself advice, it changes my course. Maybe I'd have done things differently. Maybe I've made my millions earlier. I don't know, like I have now. So no, I would give myself the advice of be there to help other people. Find ways to help them when they have a problem, because that's the most satisfying thing to do, is to see people thrive and learn from what your own mistakes. I'm quite open about mistakes I've made in my journey so far when I post, because and what it shows a bit of vulnerability, but it's real life, and I don't mind showing things I've done wrong so that help other people can get there a bit quicker than I can. So no, I'd still give myself the same advice: go out there, meet people, help people, do your best.
Absolutely. Zig Ziglar would love you as a protege because he did mention help enough people get what they want, and you will get what you want. And you have literally embodied that statement in and of itself. Well, now that we've explored the triple threat, what's next, my man?
Well, as I say, this third threat that I've introduced was only really in the summer in England, so the kind of end of August, beginning of September. So I've spent these last few weeks learning, understanding what the market need is. As I say, it's been quite a range of things that people are needing from LinkedIn. So I might need to narrow down my offer even further. So it's getting it's continuing to understand what people need, and then I will start advertising that service, whatever that looks like. But there's plenty for me to work with there. So what I've got some ideas in my head about what I want to achieve next, and it's maybe it's building a community of health and medical professionals where we can get together and talk about how we're going to make LinkedIn work better for them. So I think something along the lines of community going forward is in my mind.
Absolutely, absolutely, because a lot of people in the medical profession can also moonlight in different places. I think they call it locum or things of that
Yeah,
nature, right? So that could actually now become a platform for them to either get connected to those jobs, get connected to other sources of income while creating a personal brand in the process, helping people.
that's exactly what I did. Yeah.
And
That's
in
that's
the
that's exactly what I did, and I still did the occasional shift for the NHS because it keeps me in touch with what's going on and helped me bring in some money while I was learning on this job what to do. So yes, you're absolutely right.
Absolutely. So, in true Andrew fashion, help enough people get what they want, and you will definitely be able to get that which you want and more. Now, Andrew, I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call today. I know, you could have been doing cooler things, but you decided to come and play with me today. So, thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Now, for those that are watching right now, if you're your healthcare professional looking to step up your LinkedIn game and communicate with clarity and personality, I think Andy is your go-to expert. He's lived, the life that you live right now. He walks the walk and talks the talk. And make sure you share this episode with other healthcare professionals that might be scratching their heads, wondering what their next move could be, because there are so many golden nuggets of wisdom in here that only those with the ears to hear can hear, and the eyes to see can see. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show for more interviews that will help you grow both personally and professionally. Until next time, bye for now.